I'm Daniel Levine, and this is the Bio Report. Providers hold vast amounts of health data that can be harnessed to gain better insights into diseases, improve outcomes for patients, and help bring about an era of precision medicine. Despite advances in artificial intelligence to capitalize on these stores of data, much of it has remained siloed and out of the reach of researchers and drug developers who could put it to use. Last year, a group of 14 health providers caring for tens of millions of patients through thousands of care facilities across the country formed Truveta, a company that has built an AI platform to make structured and de-identified patient data available for research. We spoke to Terry Myerson, CEO of Truveta, about its platform technology, the work it's enabling today, and how AI and the availability of real-world data is changing how biomedical research is conducted. Terry, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to talk about Truveta, its health data and analytics offerings, and the ongoing transformation in our ability to leverage health data to improve patient outcomes. Truveta was unveiled in February 2021 in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. It emerged from a partnership between various providers. How did Truveta come about?
Well, Truveta was a concept that started as a white paper inside Providence Healthcare, where a group of physician leaders basically reflected that, when they're treating patients, getting the data they need to really understand how to treat a specific patient's really hard. The data's all around them, but they don't have a good way to ask or answer questions of the data that's around them within Providence. And then does Providence really have enough data to be representative of the full diversity of their patients? And so they proposed this consortium of health systems pooling their data to improve patient care. And then that was end of 2018. And then early 2020, we had the pandemic. And it just really bubbled to the forefront where you had patients coming in and it was not clear how to treat these patients. Which of the potential antiviral therapeutics should these patients receive when they presented to the hospital? Who should be intubated for how long? And it also became clear the life science industry also didn't know which of their therapeutics were best to treat the patients. Everyone was scrambling for data. Everyone was frustrated with the inability to ask and answer these basic questions on how to improve patient care and, what was the best interventions to treat these sick patients. And out of that moment, this collective of health systems came together. It started with 4 health systems in September 2020. It was like, this is the right thing for our patients to create this intelligence. And now, here we are a little more than 2 years later with 25 health systems have announced membership in Truveta, and it's being used for treating patients within them. But also, we have Pfizer and Boston Scientific and other life science leaders also using the data set to, thinking about how to improve patient outcomes as well. So it's one of those things where it took a pandemic to really get the team together, but now it's pretty exciting to see the collaborations happening.
I suspect while the potential may have been obvious to folks, there were a lot of challenges that had to get addressed to do what you've done, whether it was getting these various systems to talk to each other, getting people comfortable with issues like security and privacy. What were the biggest challenges in pulling this all together?
The word that comes to my mind is trust. You're doing something that's never been done before, and there are issues of security, privacy, ethics, technology, incentives, economics, and just fundamentally just, how do we do this in a trusted way where we're really keeping the patient's health top in mind to guide us. We're, very clearly, this was not let's build a data set to sell more drugs, or let's build a data set to make sure when you come out of surgery, all the knee brace vendors can be there to advertise to you, their knee brace is better than the other. So it wasn't about sales and marketing. It was like, let's really set this up to improve patient care. And it was a lot of questions of trust and governance. But behind that was privacy, security, and technology. This is a very hard and very large technical problem.
With the advent of machine learning and artificial intelligence, there's a transformation underway in how biomedical research can and is being done today. How much of a challenge are data silos, fragmented data, or unstructured data today, and how is Truveta changing that?
Well, what's interesting is most of I feel like the conversation in AI and healthcare is about once you have a beautiful data set, what can we learn? How can we learn new ways to treat patients or infer a next best action, and using AI to do that. But Truveta right now is using AI upstream from there. We're saying we have this data set, which is needs to be de-identified. We have this data set that is fragmented across many locations, and this data set that's highly unstructured, full of many natural language expressions and images and the like. And how do we use AI to create a beautiful data set that is fully de-identified that we can learn from? And so in some ways, I view, we're enabling so many AI, or we will enable so many AI discoveries, digital therapeutics, digital diagnostics, by virtue of us using AI to prepare the de-identified data set.
Give us a sense of the data landscape you've been able to put together. What data is available? How timely is the data? And how many patients does it cover? How detailed is it?
Well, so the data available for research in Truveta is, it's approaching 80 million patients. The data is updated daily. Basically, we like to say yesterday's care is available for study for today. So for public health and, future pandemic, hopefully, which never happens, but, I guess probability it will, we're preparing ourselves, we're guided by that experience of having daily data is critical. We're even seeing scenarios now where, if you're looking for patients for a clinical trial, you want to get to them before they've received some other treatment. Having that daily data or real-time data is just so critical. And, it's a fully de-identified medical record. So it's all of the diagnoses, all the medications, the lab test results. It's the symptoms, the side effects, it's the outcomes of the patient on their journey in their care. So it's a very timely and complete data set that we use AI to curate for de-identification and ensure it's of the highest quality for analytics.
One of the values is to get as close to a real-time picture of the data landscape today. What's the challenge in terms of getting this database fed constantly as new information is generated through these various systems?
Well, it starts with trust. The health systems that are members of Truveta, they're investing their time and energy to build this data set for the world to learn from. And so there's a lot of work on their side to kind of think through. They're involved in the governance of Truveta to make sure this data is used well, to make sure the security and privacy is protected, making sure we think about health equity and other important scenarios in the usage of the data. but on a daily basis, we're receiving updates on approximately 16% of every daily clinical care event in the United States. Because
is there a challenge maintaining data quality as you update the system?
Oh, for sure. I mean, data quality, which we think of as being timeliness, completeness, and validity of all the data in the system is, it's the core of what our team does. That's what, we have a team of just over 200 people now that are pretty much entirely focused on data quality.
Truveta is not alone in seeking to tap these vast amounts of health data. We featured Komodo Health in the past on the show, as well as Citizen on our sister podcast. How might what Truveta is doing differ from what others are seeking to bring to the world of real-world patient data to researchers?
Well, I think that, we are not focused on commercial analytics. We're not focused on, which facility has the latest MRI machine, who's the influencer in a therapeutic area to go get them to talk about your new drug or use your new drug. That's not our focus. Our focus is on patient care and outcomes, and across every drug, disease, and device. And so those two things really do differentiate us. You mentioned someone there that's got good data with rare diseases, and another member of the ecosystem that's very strong in commercial analytics. But in terms of the focus on patient care and outcomes across all conditions, that really is where Truveta stands out. We have studies on epilepsy, studies on diabetes, hypertension, pediatric leukemia. It's a broad set of studies that are being done across therapeutic areas, all for the purposes of improving patient care and outcomes. And that's really where Truveta differentiates.
As a product, it's what people are engaging with is what you call Truveta Studio. What is that, and what's the business model? Is this sold as a subscription?
So it is the software you log into to ask and answer your questions. So Truveta is our company, and the service you log into to ask and answer these questions on patient care and outcomes is called Truveta Studio. And yes, you subscribe to a condition to study a disease. So if you are studying epilepsy, you can log into Truveta, do unlimited studies on patient care and outcomes with epilepsy, get access to very high quality and unique data from the medical records from patients which unfortunately have epilepsy, and try and improve the patient care and outcomes. And that is it's all data is de-identified, but that's what Truveta Studio enables is those physician scientists, those researchers, those executives to come in and say, patients with epilepsy and this comorbidity or this family history, how does this intervention compare with that other intervention? What outcomes, what side effects, what do we see with different interventions? Those are the kinds of questions you can ask and answer with Truveta.
And what does it take for a user to search and analyze data? Does it require any special training or programming capability? Is this fairly ready to use out of the box?
The Truveta Studio today does require a level of technical and clinical proficiency. We're dealing with a large amount of data, which requires technical proficiency, and we're dealing with complex medical concepts. One of the things that we think about a lot is being able to ask clinically meaningful questions. Clinically meaningful questions have a level of complexity to them, so that with today's Truveta Studio, whether it's one person or two people, there is both clinical and technical proficiency required to really excellently ask and answer meaningful questions.
And how are your customers using it today? Or give me a sense of the range of things people are doing with it.
Well, we've announced two customers, so far on the life science side. Pfizer is using Truveta to track the safety of their COVID vaccine and therapeutics. which is pretty exciting. I mean, these are products which are used broadly across our entire society. And so to have this leading pharmaceutical company, this amazing innovator, betting on Truveta as one of their important data sources for safety is quite exciting. It really feels like a lot of responsibility that we take quite seriously. And, Boston Scientific was another life science customer that was looking at the health equity of, their products in the peripheral artery disease market and trying to understand differences in African-American patients versus white patients in the treatment of peripheral artery disease. We've had members of health systems studying health equity and COVID treatments, who got remdesivir, stratified by ethnicity, which was a, premium COVID therapeutic. And so these were broad use of asking and answering questions that never could so conveniently be asked or answered before.
Truveta has its own team of scientists that also use the platform to produce research. A lot of that has centered on COVID-19 from what I've seen, but have there been any significant findings?
For sure. I mean, I'm just looking at the research we have on our website. The team has published, Truveta.com/research. They've published some of their work. Adults with long COVID were nearly 2 times more likely to receive a first-time antidepressant prescription. It's kind of interesting, the connection between long COVID and being depressed. That's, an interesting correlation that you would not see unless you were looking across therapeutic areas. I take, it's a great example of, finding an insight into what's really going on in our society. I mentioned, Black patients were less likely to receive the COVID treatment remdesivir and tended to have longer hospital stays. Why is that? Why were Black patients treated differently than white patients? And we don't know. We can't answer all the questions why, but we can look and observe in the data that actually happened. And, these studies are done by our Truveta team, but almost always in collaboration with our health system partners. And as the system matures and unleash the curiosity of these incredible physician scientists.
When you built this, I imagine you had a sense of its potential uses. Have there been any unexpected uses you've seen that have provided insights into things you hadn't considered?
It's such a fun scenario that came up. But basically, it was looking at trends in hair loss treatments. And in all of the envisioning of Truveta, we talked about cancer, we talked about COVID, we talked about lupus, we talked about heart disease. But I did not realize how hair loss is such an important, how it impacts so many people in the world, and it really impacts their mental health and self-confidence, and it's a big industry, and there's some significant news and trends in hair loss. And that was just one of those things that I thought was you asked me the question, what would I have not expected? This was not on the list.
As you're bringing on additional data and grow the user base, what are the challenges you face in scaling this?
This word trust keeps coming back. I mean, people need to, we're new and we're offering this sort of unprecedented data and analytics and the ability to ask and answer questions that so many people have had for a long time. And so making our early customers really successful. And so that we can build confidence and build a reputation that this really is the excellent system that we're promising. I think there's just a natural adoption curve to new technologies, and it comes down to building trust and confidence amongst these very significant decisions people have that affect human health.
Terry Myerson, CEO of Truveta. Terry, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening. The Bio Report is a production of the Levine Media Group. To automatically download this podcast each week, subscribe to our RSS feed or through iTunes or other podcast manager. To join our mailing list, go to levinemediagroup.com. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to drop us a line or are interested in sponsoring this podcast, send email to danny@levinemediagroup.com. Special thanks to Jonah Levine, who composed our theme music, and the Jonah Levine Collective, which performs it.